Hey everybody, so midterm elections are pretty much over, still some recounting, and some questions come up from upper elementary through high school about how do we manage big time feelings with this guy. It's the President of the United States. Well, this is for students, so I'm not going to tell you how I feel about the President of the United States, but I do want to share with you some strategies for helping you manage big time feelings. So here you go. And with all strategies, use what works for you. Don't worry about what doesn't. Maybe it'll work for someone else. Here you go. People often describe these big time feelings that they have with our president as being love and hate. Love and hate, beautiful combination there. Knuckle tattoos. Love and hate, what a beautiful combination. I don't really think of love and hate as feelings so much as I think about them as descriptors for a relationship that you have towards someone or something. For example, they contain a lot of other feelings inside them. If you say you love something, you may be describing a whole variety of feelings like joy and elation, infatuation, desire, excitement, exhilaration, thrill, maybe even sadness, maybe longing, loneliness, forgiveness, acceptance. Those are all things that would exist in love. And the same would be true with hate. In hate, you may also feel anger, contempt, resentment, fear, anxiety, loathing. All those things could exist in hate. So love and hate, and they're not terribly opposite. Even in the brain, they may activate very similar neural circuitry. When people are describing their feelings, their relationship with the president as love and hate, they could be not as far apart as they may think in terms of their big time feelings.
Big time feelings.
Big time feelings. Big time feelings.
The real difference is actually indifference. Indifference, look at that, indifference. These are all Washington. Hey, this isn't coming off. What did you use?
Sharpie!
You can shrug it off. Meh, that's indifference. Meh, whatever. So how do you balance meh and indifference with love and hate? If you maintain love and hate directly with the president, you're going to be constantly in the cycle of being engaged emotionally and in your feelings with the things that this person is doing and saying. That the behaviors that we see, if we see them in school, we would definitely describe those as attention-seeking behaviors. When we see the same behaviors in school, we would actually work to help the kids support themselves and recognizing that these are attention-seeking behaviors. We would probably say behaviors at that magnitude are tier 3 behaviors that need a lot of intervention and support. The student displaying the behaviors needs support in recognizing social awareness and that other people have feelings and other people matter, and the people around the person demonstrating those attention-seeking behaviors would need support in how to manage their feelings. So it's complicated. Now, one of the ways we would start is by saying, hey, you should just try to ignore some of those behaviors. But we can't do that in this situation because it's the president, and you don't want to be in a habit of ignoring the president because what the president does and says matters. It matters for our whole society. It's a representation of our nation, and it has implications for all people in our country. It have impact from what the president does and says. So how do you manage these big-time feelings that come up for us regarding behavior choices from our president? It's tricky. I'm going to shift it away from our president, and I'm going to shift it to somebody who has some similar behaviors, but somebody who's a little bit easier to talk about, which is Mark Bolan from T-Rex, because I love T-Rex music.
I could have loved you, girl, like a planet. I could have changed your heart to a star. But it really doesn't matter at all. No, it really doesn't matter at all. Life's a game.
That song's called Life's a Gas because it goes from love to a little bit of like this and indifference, but it always involves him. I could have done this, that next line. I could have put our love in the sky, placed our love in the sky, right? These are these delusions of greatness that I could do, but it doesn't matter.
I could have built a house in the ocean. I could have placed our love in the sky. But it really doesn't matter at all. No, it really doesn't matter at all. Life's a game.
That's fine. I could have turned you into a priestess. I don't know what that means. It could have burned your fate in the sand. I don't know what that means either. But I know that he has big, strong feelings about what he could or couldn't do.
I could have turned you into a priestess. I could have burned your fate in the sand. But it really doesn't matter at all. No, it really doesn't matter at all. Life's a game.
Rather than focusing on Mark Bolan, the writer, focusing on the content of what he's saying. That's actually a strategy here. Same as the way you handled the president. We'll focus on the content, not the context. It's less about how he says what he says versus what is he saying, what's the implication, what's really happening. If you focus on the content of what someone is saying, then it allows you to figure out what your feelings are engaged with that topic. So if immigration is something that stirs you, either you agree with the president, either you love what the president says or you feel like you hate what the president says, you're still having big time feelings for it, figure out, well, is that a topic that matters to me? Is this a content that I feel strongly about? Is this something I want to work in? Is this something for my career that I'd like to do? The same could be true with healthcare. The same could be true with defense. The same could be true with education. If you take the time to focus on what the topic is, then you have a place for your energy. You have a place to, as an outlet, to focus on how you want to do. He becomes less important. The key to handling someone who is doing attention-seeking things is to focus on the content of what's being said, not the context of how it's being said. Sidebar, Love and Hate Knuckle Tattoo, 1953 book by Davis Grubb called Night of the Hunter, and 1955 movie starring Robert Mitchum called Night of the Hunter. And then a reference, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds song, The Mercy Seat, says, my good hand tattooed evil across his brother's fist. That Filthy Five, a little reference. Johnny Cash did a version of that song too. So the strategy is this. If you recognize, use your self-awareness, if you recognize that you're thinking or ruminating on the artist, switch to the art. So instead of thinking about Mark Bolan, think about his song. So instead of thinking about the president, think about the content of what he's saying. So if he's talking about immigration, think about immigration. Don't think about his feelings about immigration, think about it as a topic. Healthcare, what about healthcare? What is the state of our society? So shift your focus. If you use your self-awareness and you recognize what you're thinking and feeling, you shift from the artist to the art. Don't confuse the art and the artist. And we want to be focused on art. More learning in art than learning about artists.